Everybody, it's week 7 of the 2017 college football season. And just before we get started, as always, just a reminder that feel free to use anything that you hear on this video or read in the blog, but just keep in mind that all of these outcomes are completely my opinion. So just, tread lightly on that and use it as you please. Just to jump right in, we'll recap last week. I went 1-1-1. Auburn, we had minus 21 at home against Ole Miss, and they actually recovering pretty easily at halftime, up 35-3, and even in the fourth quarter they were up 41-10, but did let Ole Miss score 2 touchdowns late and won that game 44-23 and gave us a push. We had Georgia and Vanderbilt over 41.5, and last week in the video, if you remember, I said that I thought Georgia would come close to covering that by themselves, and if Vanderbilt could score anything, that would go over. And sure enough, Georgia actually did cover that by themselves. They scored 45. Vanderbilt put up 14, so it gave us 59 total points going over, so that was our win. And lastly, we had West Virginia and TCU over the 68, which I thought was I had it projected a lot higher. And the second half did go our way. They did score 45 total points in the second half, but the first half was so slow with very little points that it did go under. But I think if that first half would have come out anything, just a couple more points, maybe 10 points better, we'd have had a lot better shot. Obviously, we may have been covered. But anyways, we'll jump right into this week. So the first game I have is a Pac-12 game. It's Washington at Arizona State. Currently, Washington is a 17.5 point favorite with an over-under 61. So the last 4 seasons, Arizona State has covered in this game, and also out of those 4, 3 of those, except for last year, they did win outright. Obviously, Washington had a very good year last year going to the playoffs, so they had a very good team. They've got a very good team this year. A few trends that stood out to me. Arizona State is 4-0 against the spread as a home dog of more than 10 points. Arizona State is 9-3 their last 12. At home in general. Arizona State is 5-1 against the spread their last 6 as a dog of 10 or more points, no matter if it's at home or away. And also they're 9-4 their last 13 against the spread versus a team with a winning record. Projected stats I have this week, I've got Washington rushing between 165 to 185 yards, while passing between 245 to 265 yards. I've got Arizona State rushing between 150 to 170 yards and passing between 210 to 230 yards. So as you can see, to me, the stats are very similar. Obviously, I have Washington having better stats, but not too far behind is Arizona State. And with that, there's been a lot of, in my opinion, distractions this week, the last couple weeks with Washington, with their coaches and their players and everybody talking about when they get to play their games. Well, this week is another late kickoff, and it's just another distraction on the road. So I think Arizona State takes this game, and I think they do. I think Washington does win it, but I have it a lot closer than that 17.5. And for that reason, my first play is Arizona State plus 17.5. The next game I have is another Pac-12 game, Utah at USC. USC is a 13-point favorite at home with an over-under of 54. This game last year was where Sam Darnold came out for his first start. He was on the road. They got the 31-27 win. He looked very good and had a very, obviously had a good year the rest of the time and stood out. But USC this week has 14 defensive players, not all starters, but 14 total defensive players that are at least hurt or questionable for this game, and some of those are even out for the year. So keep that in mind. Some trends that stood out, USC to the over is 18-7-2, their last 27 at home versus a team with a winning record. While Utah to the over is 7-3, their last 10, as a dog of more than 10 points. Projected stats, I have Utah rushing between 115 to 135 yards, while passing between 230 to 250 yards. I've got USC rushing between 180 to 200 yards, while passing between 245 to 265 yards. I have this game projected at 38-28 USC, which is within that spread of 13 points, but not enough for me to pull that as a lean. I'm actually going with the over here. Over 54 points is the play for me. And the last game I have is the SEC game, Auburn at LSU. Auburn is a 6.5 point favorite on the road with the over-under 44.5. Last week we had Auburn minus 21, and as I talked about in the recap of last week, they were looking great at halftime, looking great through the third quarter. They were starting to lose momentum in the third quarter, and I could tell that they were obviously starting to pull a few of the starters out. They kept some of the main starters in, quarterback, running back, some of those players. Some of the offensive linemen went out. One of the offensive linemen got hurt. He's going to be back this week. Just a few things like that. You can tell the players just really weren't into it. And I think that's something they're probably going to work on all week this week, or have been working on this week, is finishing the game. So with that said, we'll jump right into the rest of it. I have LSU, came off a big win last week on the road at Florida. They won by 1 point against one of their rivals. That's the SEC East team that they play every single year. And it's a big win for Coach O after losing at home to Troy. This game will kick off at 2:30, and the reason I point that out is usually LSU, I have two different home field advantages at points that I assign to them. One for night games, say 6:15 Central, 6:30 Central time kickoff, and then day games. Well, this being a 2:30 game, it's not going to be near as rowdy. It's still tough to win at LSU, obviously, but it's a lot different ball game when it's at night. So I did assign 2.5 points for home field advantage here. Trends that stood out: LSU is 0-4-1 their last 5 against the spread at home. They're also 0-5 their last 5 as an underdog of any amount. Auburn is 3-0-1 their last 4 against the spread versus conference, and they're also 5-1 their last 6 as a road favorite. Projected stats I have is Auburn rushing between 200 to 220 yards, while passing between 160 to 180 yards. I have LSU rushing between 135 to 155 yards and passing between 190 to 210 yards. So obviously you can see I've got LSU passing for quite a bit there, probably more than most people would think. But I do think later on in the game Auburn starts to pull away. I think Auburn's a lot stronger here, and even with LSU having a little bit of momentum from that win last week, I think Auburn's got more momentum as they start getting their year going even more. They've been putting up a ton of points the last 3 weeks against SEC teams, so I think they keep that going. So Auburn minus 6.5 is my last play. So just to recap, Auburn minus 6.5, USC, Utah over 54, and Arizona State plus 17.5. 5 leans for you this week. I've got Georgia Tech plus 6.5, Arizona plus 1, Minnesota plus 4, Missouri plus 30, and Duke plus 6.5. So if you haven't already, please like and subscribe, turn on your notifications, so every week when I put these out, I put out an NFL and a college video every single week, usually on Tuesdays. This one will be on Wednesday. I'm running a little late here. But please like and subscribe, check out the Goal 60, and follow me at the Goal 60 on Twitter. Thank you and good luck.